on, beautiful people? Hey, it's Dave Umphris with the Flourish Collective, hubbed here in Denver, Colorado. We are an impact-driven network of agents and teams spread all over the country, but we're hubbed here. And we all rally around our internal nonprofit called Flourish Alliance, which seeks to address causes that we would say limit somebody's ability to live a flourishing life. So food insecurity, homelessness, human trafficking, affordable housing, things like that, and then several one-off causes or organizations in some of our markets that our agents particularly are passionate about. And about a year ago, we made the really difficult decision to move our entire network from the company that I had been with forever, since the very beginning, and that most of our agents had been with for their entire careers. And I get the same question a couple times a week as to why we did that and what we experienced when we left. And so I thought I'd make a quick video detailing the five things that the five biggest things that caused us to go, and then the five biggest surprises that we found since we've been there. So Real Broker is the company that we moved to, and so everything that we talk about will sort of reference what we've experienced at Real Broker since going. Now, just a quick 20-second background, 30-second background of my story. I mean, I was the least likely person to ever leave the franchisor that I was at, and that franchisor was Keller Williams, the largest real estate company in the country. And I had been there since the very beginning, like I said, but I also owned the franchise. And so I owned the franchise in the town that I was in, which is Littleton, Colorado. It was the largest real estate office in that town, 185 agents, and I'd been there 11 years since the very beginning. I was in Gary's private mastermind, which I aspired to for years to get into this group. I still have a ton of respect for Gary and for lots of the other leaders in the company, so there was certainly no issue relationally with a lot of, and there was a couple leaders more regionally that I had issue with, but on a national scale in the rooms that I had worked hard to get into, I loved these people. I loved the leaders, and there was certainly no issue there. I was on national task forces that put me into small rooms with some of the most influential people in this company, which was a big honor. I was on the International Agent Leadership Council. I was on stages at national conferences, all of the things that you would say make somebody, to coin a phrase from several years ago, unrecruitable, the things that would say this person would never leave, I was the least likely. So when I get these messages regularly asking me why we left, it's hard to explain. It's a very complicated answer, and so hopefully these 5 and 5 sort of help break down a little bit. So first, let's start with why we left. The first reason that I'll talk about is the model. And this is certainly no issue with the company. This is just the reality of a model that gets set in stone decades ago that really can't be changed, especially when there's a lot of independent owners that will of course dig their heels in if you do try to change the model, which I witnessed several times. But while the independently owned and operated model probably worked really well in the 90s, we were running into some challenges with the fact that there was really 10 different franchises around the major metro area that we were in, predominantly in, and they all had different owners. They all wanted different things. They all wanted a piece of the pie when our agents in those offices closed deals, and just to work in their corner of town, it made it really complicated and difficult. And so we were spread across 4 offices at the time that we started to make this move, and they were all within an hour of each other. And most of our agents hung their licenses at my office though, because it was just much easier. And so within a model like that, we kept running into challenges with expansion, primarily because every corner of every city in the country especially, they're all owned by different people. And so we were having a hard time getting the same financial structure and the same rules and the same support, the same education. And so we were just running into a lot of challenges there with the model. Again, nothing wrong with how the model was created, but when the model was created in the 80s, it really didn't anticipate these large expanded businesses spread across multiple cities, states, and even countries now with some agents. So that's the first one. Second one is the fees. I understand the purpose of the fees. I mean, I saw firsthand what the fees went to, but our team, our agents with our team, they were paying a really high cap to a market center. They were paying $3,000 annually in royalty. They were paying tech fees. They were paying monthly office bills. They were paying so many fees. And, the last couple of years have been a challenge in the real estate industry. And so several of our agents were selling fewer houses than they were before. And if maybe somebody was, maybe someone was home with a baby, or somebody was working another job as a dual career agent, if they only closed 3 to 5 houses in that year, they'd still be paying over $15,000 a year in fees just to be able to use that name. And that was really a challenge, because when agents are paying high fees, within that model, they also look to the team that I was running, and they'd like to pay fewer fees to us, of course, because they're paying so many fees there. And so we kept running into friction there. And that was one thing that got us looking around was, what other opportunities are there out there where fees could be decreased? So number 3 is the opportunity. We really appreciated the opportunity that the previous company gave us, especially me as the person running the company. They opened up a lot of doors for me, which I certainly appreciate. And like I've said, appreciate a lot of the people there that helped open those doors. But long term, I wanted the agents on the team and within our network to benefit from the same wealth building opportunities and even bigger, better opportunities than what I had received. And so that got us looking around. And so not just me personally benefiting from maybe what I'd call social equity, the relationships that were created, but my agents benefiting from financial opportunity was a huge one. So I wanted them to be able to earn equity in a publicly traded company as a result of just doing their job. And so, which that's obviously not possible at a private company. You can't earn equity in the company. Well, I guess you could, but it'd be incredibly unlikely. And so I wanted them to look back 10 years from now and see a significant retirement fund that they had built, and then they'd be able to say, the only reason I was able to build that was because our team jumped from this train track to the other train track, and that opened up those doors. So those opportunities was certainly one of the things that got us looking. Number 4, the financials. Our network of agents, Flourish Collective, we're spread across the country, and together we focus on things like I talked about that limit someone's ability to flourish. And so when we are in a financial model that's really limiting us, all it doesn't change our lifestyle. It changes how much we're able to give through Flourish Alliance to some of our partners. And so the reality is we looked at the last couple of years, we were kind of discouraged by how much our giving had decreased the last few years, but the amount we were paying to the company hadn't decreased. If anything, it had gone up, and it was decreasing our ability to give. And so that caused us to look around and ask what we could do to save money so that we could give more. So a portion of every closing, and then 25% of all profits go to our nonprofit. So when we're in a limited profit season, because we're still paying the same amount to a brokerage, it forces us to say, man, what else could we be doing to be better stewards of this money so that we could still give as much or even more to the causes we care about? So that's one of the things. The finances is certainly a piece that got us looking around. And then the 5th one is accessibility. And this one is pretty nuanced and pretty unique to my situation. And so I would say take this one with a grain of salt. But I guess a longer story, back in 2019, I believe it was, Gary encouraged everybody in his private mastermind to go give themselves to building a business that is 100% focused on the health and the well-being and the development of your community, which I love. I mean, that's Gary's heart, and I love that, and I love him, and I have nothing bad to say about him whatsoever. And he charged us all to go build something, what I would say very similar to what we decided to build with Flourish Collective. And that was in the middle of a big transition of our company, where we had been doing this for a decade at that point, almost a decade. But we pivoted from focusing largely on international causes, such as the water crisis in Africa, which we still are very involved in, but we focused more so on local flourishing. And so we spent 5 years doing exactly what he told us to do. And it was a ton of work, and I'm thrilled to say that it was really worthwhile and that his challenge to us was a phenomenal one. But he said go do it and then come back and tell me about it, and I'll do anything I can to help make it thrive. And so, we did, and I went back and I could. In this time, keep in mind, I mean, I'm still in this mastermind. I'm still around him plenty, and I couldn't even get a meeting, couldn't get a phone call back, couldn't even get an email back. And to me, it was just indicative of accessibility issues, and the reality is that's where the company is. It's a massive, massive company, and I was just a little tiny fish in a real big sea. Now, in his defense, this was in the middle of all the NAR lawsuit stuff, and I know he was super tied up. So I would say the caveat to that would be it was a crazy season, and I don't blame him. That's just the reality of the company, of where it is. Now, juxtapose that to our experience, which is pretty weird also. Obviously, this is not normal, but when we started looking at Real, we sent one message that led to one phone call with somebody at some sort of corporate office, right? So not anybody that I would say, we didn't get an inside track to somebody super influential or anything like that. I had a call with somebody at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, right, about potentially looking at Real. The next morning, by 5 a.m., I'm in conversation with the founder and CEO of the company, and by 10 a.m. he and I are sitting across from each other in a hotel lobby. Like, completely random, I get it, but 18 hours from the initial interaction with anybody, I'm sitting face to face with the founder and CEO of the company, talking about the dreams of the company and where it's going, and just the most humble, down-to-earth guy, Tamir Poleg. I love this guy, and he, in that 1 hour of him sitting across from the table from each other, just showed me what kind of a humble leader he is, and that I would love to go wherever he's going. And so to me, that was just sort of an interesting accessibility awareness. And this was about a year ago when we were having this conversation, and that was a big change for us. And so now fast forward to today, you see that show up constantly with both the president and the CEO being super accessible at conferences. They're on stage talking, but they're also in the hallways, chatting it up with everybody in between sessions. They're showing up at the events. I mean, they're commenting on people's social media posts. I mean, they're very, very accessible. And that was a big difference for us. And that was a big reason for in the transition that caused me to look around and wonder, is it beneficial for our company to be somewhere where maybe we have a little more agency and a little more ability to show up? So anyways, that was the five of the things that really caused us to look around. Like I said, there was other things, and we won't get into too many of the nuanced situations about our, particular office or regional leaders or timeline, anything like that. That doesn't matter that much. Those 5, I think, are pretty universal. So now let's talk about the 5 things that we found. The 5 biggest surprises that I would say was since showing up at Real Broker have really stood out and have really been really interesting things that we found in our experience. So the first biggest surprise, I would say, has been revenue share. Coming from a profit sharing system where I was always taught to sort of poo-poo on revenue share, that it was a bad thing, it was unsustainable, it wasn't, it's been tried before, or it's how we used to do it and it failed. And, I had built a great profit share downline at the previous company with several owners of offices and team leaders of offices and hundreds of people that are just incredibly influential in that company that you would expect to build great profit sharing. And in the 11 years, I had earned $11,646, which is great. That's free money. I didn't earn that. I didn't deserve that money. And it was a gift that they gave it to me. But in the first month of revenue share, we eclipsed that in 1 month. And that was shocking to me that I had just moved to this company and they're giving out that kind of money just for showing up month 1. And of course, it grew exponentially from there. But with revenue share, I had always been taught or trained that it was just sort of not that reliable or not that much. And it's been really surprising to see that it's actually a significant income opportunity. And unlike a lot of the competitors of Real, they pay 100% of the money that they're bringing in splits out to in revenue share. So lots of competitors pay 50% out, they pay 100%. So if an agent's paying $12,000 in a year to the company, $4,000 of that is going to the person that brought them into the company, and $3,200 of that is going to the person that brought them into the company, and it's all 12,000 of it is allocated 5 levels up. And then also different from several companies, it rewards primarily the first person in that level. It's not rewarding level 7 more because it's going to take somebody like 20 years to get there and nobody's going to stick around that long. No, it says if you're the person that brought someone into the company, we are going to give you the most money up front, and it's going to be significant. It's going to be a third of the money that they pay in. So that was eye-opening. The second biggest surprise has been the people. I've always been told that culture was the reason people were at in my previous company, and I can't speak to the culture of every one of these offices. I can speak to the national culture, but I didn't know culture until I came to Real Broker. The motto, work hard, be kind, you see that woven throughout everything that the company does. And so there's no pretentiousness. There's no multiple tiers of quality of an agent. You're not wearing your awards around at conferences. There's none of that. I mean, it's a very humble culture. And that's top down. Like I mentioned, you see that from the president, you see that from the CEO, and you see leaders that have every reason to be arrogant, and they have zero of it. And it's pretty wild. And so that culture, and then there's just like this culture of collaboration that I had always heard about, heard that we had, and it just never did. I mean, this is an actual culture of collaboration, and it's pretty wild to see people helping each other constantly that have no financial benefit for each other succeeding, and it's refreshing. So the third biggest surprise has been how fun a publicly traded real estate company can be to participate in. And, I'll be the first to admit that we missed the boat on EXP back in 2018. We were about to be the first team in Colorado to move to EXP. At the 11th hour, we pulled the plug. There was a couple other names that had surfaced that were also moving at the same time. And frankly, there was integrity concerns about a couple of the names that people that I knew, and I didn't want to be associated with them. And so we chose to pull the plug, and the financial opportunity was, of course, massive. And so in hindsight, I have no regret. We did what our conscience told us we needed to do, but we missed out on a massive financial upswing, of course. So that stock, from when we were looking until 2 years later, it 8x, 10x. I mean, it multiplied insanely. And of course, it came back down some, but then that stock certainly saw its heyday, and we missed out. And so just the reality is, when we started looking at Real, and it was $1.50, fastest growing publicly traded company in the country. The stock price hadn't quite reflected its growth yet, but we knew that it was coming. It was just this perfect storm for this stock to move up big time, and it did. It moved up. It 3x'd, and it's come down a little bit, and it's sort of like it's positioning itself. So the company has more than doubled in size since we went to the company. Over 23,000 agents today, as at recording of this video, and continuing to grow like crazy. And so that stock hasn't even reflected that growth yet. And so we don't need it to 10x or 20x or 30x like it could. When they're giving me almost $50,000 a year in company stock just for showing up and doing my job and letting me participate in a small match, and then they're adding for hitting a lead agent and for teaching and all these things. I mean, when that's just being given to you, you don't even need it to you don't even need 2x. You can leave it right where it is, and it's still a great retirement fund. But when it has the ability to even double, in the next 10 years, if they're giving me this equity in the company, $40,000, $50,000 a year for 5-10 years, and it even then potentially multiplies, doubles, triples, quadruples, 10x's, it's life-changing. And so creating the retirement accounts for my agents and for staff and for myself, I mean, it's definitely it's been a big surprise, and it's been really refreshing. So love participating in that. Number 4 is that the education has been a big surprise. Inside in a franchise model, you are often restricted to local education that you bring into your franchise, and then national opportunity. Sometimes there's some digital stuff here and there, but what you end up seeing is a lot of restriction based on, in some companies it's your downline. We're only going to do education that's open to the downline. Or in the franchise model, lots of times it's the office. This office brings in this speaker, but it's not necessarily for everybody. It's just for people in this office, and just this real small-minded, closed thinking approach to education. And it's been really refreshing to see that there is no you can't limit education opportunities within Real just to your people. It's not allowed. You have to open it up. So if it can't be just to your downline or something like that. And so that's been a real tone setter for culture too, that there is this real collaboration, and there's this real approach to bringing in value and then exposing everybody to it, which has been really refreshing. So love the education we've found. And then last, this has been personally surprising, that the good relationships I was really concerned about. When you leave a company that you've been with for this long, it's easy to think that, my people are still there and, I'm leaving them all. That's going to kill those relationships. But the good relationships in this industry survive. And honestly, the good people in the industry couldn't care less what brokerage you're at. Whether you stay or go, or if they go and you stay or whatever. I mean, it's been really refreshing to see that above the clouds, especially with maybe higher producing agents that collaborate more outside of just in a local office setting. They're for each other. They're really not for the company necessarily. And the company you hang your license at doesn't matter as much as I was concerned it might to the biggest thinkers in this industry. So at masterminds, at broker agnostic conferences, and things like that, the conversations are refreshing, because it's just confirming that the big minds, the big thinkers in this industry really don't care that much about where you choose to run your business at. Just run a great business. So that's been really encouraging. So there you have it. That was my 5 primary reasons why we left, and then the 5 biggest surprises that we've found since moving to Real Broker 1 year ago. So if you're in a similar boat that I was in a year ago, kicking the tires, curious about what things could look like, I'd be happy to jump on a quick call, or you can shoot me an email. You can DM me and explore, what the process looks like for us, answer some questions about what you might have, and we'll schedule a call. So the easiest is to email me. Dave@poweredbyflourish.com is the best email, but lots of times people can't spell that. So davesoldmyhouse@gmail.com also works. or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram or Tickety Talk or whatever and DM me on there and we'll set something up. So I appreciate you taking the time. I hope that was helpful, and I hope you have a phenomenal year, regardless of what brokerage you're at. I hope you thrive. I hope your business thrives and flourishes. I hope your life flourishes, and I hope you find what you were put on this earth for. I mean, what thing causes you pain and hurt inside that you would say, man, I just want to affect that issue or that thing. And I hope your business thrives in such a way that allows you to make the impact in this world that you want to make, regardless of where you are, whatever brokerage you're at or what you're doing with your life. So I appreciate you watching this. Have a great day. Talk to you later.